This podcast contains explicit content not suitable for listeners under the age of 18. Parental discretion is advised.
Okay, first of all, for the kind of information that you want, your ass need to go to a library. In terms of the way the social media is set up, we cannot put that genie back in the bottle.
Hold
It is
on.
no way to regulate it at this point, in my mind. Go ahead.
Well, not only that, but here's the thing. People can post their opinions.
Right.
And when you break it down, they can come back and say, that's not facts. That's just my opinion on the facts. And tell me, David, that that's not the thing that every single one of them uses. This is
Listen,
just my
that is what,
opinion.
Jennifer, this is what's making people literally millionaires just off of what you
Exactly.
just said right now.
Yeah.
Just the fact that I have an opinion about this situation, if I can gather enough followers and make people that excited about hearing my opinion, just think that makes people, Jesse, multimillionaires on the daily now through social media.
Now, I do want to take it back a little bit because I know that I want to get into the false accusations and defamation later, but I want to address a piece that Jesse kind of talked about, which is the cyberbullying, right? The harassment, using social media in the severely negative way of stalking people, right? So, there's a report, reviews report that victimization rates are between 14 and 57%, depending on the definitions of populations. Over 30% of teens say they've been cyberbullied, 13% in the last 30 days. 32% of teen girls and 24% of teen boys say they experienced two or more types of harassment online at some point.
But
We
see,
know that cyberbullying leads to suicide. That is we know that is a statistic that is out there as well.
So I'm gonna address this real quick, and then I'm gonna come back to something you said about regulation because I actually got an email today from change.org about social media regulation. But I'm gonna come back to that, and then I'm gonna address the cyberbullying thing first. So bullying has existed since humanity has existed, right? In my opinion.
yep.
Yep.
Right. I remember as kids when I was a kid in the 90s, right? There was kids getting wedgies and swirlies. I don't know if anybody who don't know what a swirly is. That's when a couple of guys grab you by your feet and your hands and they dip your head in the toilet while they flush it. Right?
Yep.
That's a swirly.
And there may not have been anything in the toilet when they flushed it.
Oh, that didn't matter. If there
Yep.
was something in the
Exactly.
toilet, that was all the better. But
Yep. Yep.
anyway,
Yep. Yep.
Yep.
anyway, that was a real thing. Kids got stuffed in lockers and locked in there for hours, and you know, all type. Let me get your lunch money. I remember as a kid when I first moved into these new public assistant government assisted housing. Um, the kids, I was just out rollerblading. And the kids, I don't even think they rollerbladed. They just seen me rollerblading, and I was a new kid in the neighborhood. So they beat me up, stabbed me with a steak knife, and took all my shit, left me in my underwear. Right? So that was bullying to me. When you go home bleeding in your underwear, you just got bullied. Now, I'm not diminishing the cyberbullying stuff, right? I'm not saying that it's okay to talk to people, but that you can say whatever because words do hurt, right? Because people talk shit, but it just seems that now you bully people through the internet, and it's more personal. Am I wrong? Like now, it's personal attacks. It's not like yeah, it's a personal attack getting your head stuffed in the toilet, but that shit made you tough, and a lot of times that shit made you so mad you wanted some get back, so you never got bullied again, right? So
Okay.
I don't know.
Remember,
I just feel like this should.
I'm older than both of y'all again. So, and I know this is gonna make me probably sound very like I'm desensitized to it because I know it is real. I know uh, the youth are killing themselves and harming themselves, and it is so real and it is happening. But to me, bullying is kind of like Jesse said, and I know this is a crazy analogy, like he said about actually dealing with human contact and seeing a person, dealing with people in person. To me, bullying is physically getting harmed. Literally, I know it's gonna make me sound old, but sticks and stones. So I don't care what anybody would say about me. That is much easier to handle than having to run away from getting jumped. Right?
Well, that's
So
what I was
I
gonna say.
don't.
So that's bullying, like the old school bullying, but
Right.
cyberbullying is different because that's in your pocket. That's every time you open and look at your phone. You know what I'm saying? How
Yeah,
many times do we do that a day?
yeah, but that's the part about it that makes it different than the real bullying. You
Yeah.
really had to maybe go across the street or do a whole nother route to get to your house. All you got to do with the phone is not look at that particular situation. So it's
Or to
almost
block.
like, yeah. So it's almost like you're choosing to initiate with the bully. Whereas back in my day, it was all about avoiding the bully, right? So it wasn't like, back in my day, you wouldn't say, hey, you know what? I know that bully's going to be right on 79th. Let me walk down there and see what's up, right? And it's literally like when you get on the phone, which you don't have to, and look at that particular situation, it's almost like you want to be involved with the bully in a way. Does that make sense? Because I know
Well,
I'm
I was gonna
sounding real
say,
old, like I don't understand, but it seems like to me the simple answer would be don't look.
well, but here's the thing. I'm gonna spin it though. So let's take that cyberbullying, right? Don't look, don't do it. But let's say that bullying part is public false accusations, defaming you online, your reputation, damaging it, saying you said or did
Mm.
certain things that you didn't do. Are you supposed to just be like, oh well, I'm just gonna not listen, and while they destroy your reputation, even though you're innocent, or what do you do in these
And
situations?
I gotta go even further, right? Because I seen I seen the whole Me Too movement from prison, right? And there was, the whole thing, the reason that lost steam, because that was a movement that should have been a real thing, right? When people getting sexually assaulted and coming forward and finally speaking out against it, that should have been nothing but positive. It should have been but people were taking and exploiting that and ruining people's lives behind some lies, right? Careers, marriages, families destroyed behind people coming on there making up accusations that such and such raped them, right? So that's the thing about social media when I said it's more personal now than even getting your head stuffed in the toilet with some shit.
People have lost jobs over social media content. Look at that whole scandal that happened on social media.
And
No, what
if
about
it's
no? What
not
about just
real,
recently with Jimmy? What about recently with Jimmy Kimball and the whole
Exactly.
incident with the Charlie Kirk? People
you
were
see what
losing
I'm
their
saying?
jobs left and right over that.
But if you really think about it, he wasn't saying anything disrespectful about Charlie Kirk or the family. He was just addressing the whole situation in general. But I mean, it still comes down to the fact that, some lines are like, it looks like there are lines
Even
nowadays.
And
even
no,
still,
because back in the day, guess what would have happened? I would have went to work and I would have either said, "Oh man, I'm cool with Charlie Kirk," or "Fuck Charlie Kirk," but it wouldn't have got me fired because there wouldn't have been no social media for me to put it on, right? Because you think in all the cases where the people got fired, it wasn't because they just said this at the water cooler, right? It was because they put it on social media, right? Isn't that what got everybody fired?
Oh
I'm
yeah, like
assuming,
look at the teachers, all the teachers
right?
losing their jobs over, speaking their opinions. But again, certain things, I do believe that certain things shouldn't be said in a certain way to our youth, because then it's like you're trying to put your impressions upon them and your own personal feelings about this,
Yep.
about the topic. That's what we got to be careful, because you are an educator. You're educating these children to not think for themselves when you do that.
Yeah, because to me, an educator is supposed to be just like Walter Cronkite, the newsman, just the facts.
Well, and that's the thing. You can have your own opinion in your own space, right? That personal space. But when you're public
Right.
facing, that brand, that's where
Or when you're teaching,
exactly.
or if you're actually if you're teaching me, You're supposed to just be teaching me the facts, right?
Exactly.
That's the whole thing I was just saying. Like, why is it okay to put lies and disinformation on Facebook? Why isn't there something in place stopping that from happening? Like, if
Because
it's,
they
I
never.
understand, I understand everyone has a right to their opinion. Everyone has a right to free speech. I get that. Damages shit, damn it,
No,
it
I'm saying
damages
the
shit.
lies damage things.
But if you're
Though.
putting blatant lies, that you literally have undisputed evidence that this is false, why are you allowing it to go up?
Media kind of exploded like the way AI is, and the feds didn't get any kind of regulation on it. And now, like I said, you can't.
See, the feds shouldn't have regulation on it.
Oh
It
no,
shouldn't be about federal
if the
regulation or
so if the
government
feds don't
regulation.
regulate, so who's supposed to regulate it? Who's gonna stop the people from lying on it? If it's
You,
not the
as
feds, then
me personally, as a business owner, if you're operating a business and you're trying to conduct yourself with any type of morality, as a business owner, I would not allow anybody to come into a location I owned or I managed and put and post up lies or disinformation on any of my billboards, in my windows, on my door, anything, right? And essentially, a social media is a business platform for these tech companies. It's a business platform. It is your place of business. That is where you collect your income. It should be professional. So, therefore, any disinformation or any lies you allowed to be posted in your place of business, you're at fault for. That's just how I see it.
But I don't think it's the majority of the companies are the ones that are posting the disinformation, is what we're saying. It's
No.
individuals.
yeah.
When you allow, I wouldn't allow individuals to come into my place of business. David, as a business owner, would you allow people to come into your place of business and post blatant lies up?
If my place of business was social media, if you
No.
get very particular, then I'm gonna say hell yeah, because I'm not gonna let one side say, because at this point, the way I see it, man,
I'm not talking
it's like the Wild
opinions.
West.
I'm not talking opinions. I'm talking facts. Right? When you talk
Oh, well, then
facts,
it wouldn't be no social media. If people were just putting up facts, shit, there wouldn't be no Facebook or none of this,
no, because you
right?
why can't you post the truth? Why can't you post honesty? Right?
Well, no, honesty and
Why
But
truth
can't you
is two
be
I
different
guess
successful with
things.
that?
I guess here's my question: who's paying who to go and find all of these false posts and false and who's doing this job? Because that's a whole job in itself. You know what I mean?
Right,
Like, because
right.
they multiply. People share them and taking down the original post. Yeah, but you've got more people that downloaded that content and re-uploaded it on different platforms. That's the thing about technology. You can't stop it. That's why when they say once it's out there, it's out there. Because you don't know how many people downloaded it, saved it, linked it, did all of that before you took it
So,
down.
So
actually,
so
can I give you an example, Jesse? Because I know we talked about this for a quick second when it happened. We'll use Charlie Kirk again, right? You personally said, man, you kind of agreed with some of the things he said, right? But then you have people that disagree with the things he said. So what? We shouldn't put up any of those?
no.
Okay, go
So
ahead.
when I
So what do we
say
put up?
I agree with some of the things that he said, some of the things that he said I
Uh,
did agree with, right?
right?
Because a lot of some of the things he said was factual, right?
To
Now,
you. Or was it factual to you? Or was it facts,
no.
period?
Facts, period. I'm talking about facts,
Oh,
period.
okay.
When he made statements based on facts, period, and I'm not talking about his religious context, I'm not talking about any of that. When he made statements based on historical facts, right? How can you argue that,
Okay.
right? Specifically, I remember a conversation I watched. He was talking about BET and the owners of BET, right? And the explosion of of just destruction in black culture. I agree with a lot of that. I agreed with that before I ever heard him say that, right? Because I've been around black people my whole life. In fact, as a teenager, being around a lot of white people made me uncomfortable, right? I felt like that I was always beneath them, and I wasn't good enough to be there with them. And so I love black people, but I don't understand how, because I hear a lot of talk now about the culture, the culture, the culture. Why is the culture selling dope and killing people? I know, but me personally, I know more about black people than that. That's not the culture. That's the culture that's been spread by social media and the media. When Charlie Kirk was talking about this, yeah, I agree with a lot of things he was saying about that. And a lot of people that talk about he is racist won't mention that he said that shit. Right? Because why would a racist care about the destruction of black people? Right?
Actually, why would any white person?
So
Right.
I mean,
Right.
I
Because
care
I mean,
because
well, but that's
that's my
just
people.
because well, that's just because you said in your particular situation is because your own kind of white people didn't make you feel comfortable, right? But you can't expect a person from another tribe to all of a sudden care about yours, especially more than you. And that's not even a bad thing. That's not me
So
saying and you should, right? That's just
so
like me saying, man, I care more about what's going on in Gaza than I do what's going on 79th Street, right? Like you got to care about your own first. That just and that ain't and that's not and people have made that seem like that's a bad thing, and it's really not, right?
it's
The
not
bad thing is to hate on the other people, right?
exactly.
That's the bad part, right? And in order for my people to thrive, I need to hate you. I need to make sure I step on you. I need to make sure that I'm better than you and I can spit on you because that is part of what's going to make my like you said, my culture or my people thrive. That is where it gets bad, right? Now, other than that, I'm pretty open minded to everything. But I have no problem. No, I have no problem with white power because you know why? I have no problem with black power, right? So do you understand
Yeah.
what I mean? Now I understand I have problem with white power because to me, white power should just be man. If we want white people to do good, hell yeah, right? My problem be when they say and we hate niggas. Now you got a problem, right?
Yep.
Right? Or we want to kill this people. Now, see, now we got a problem, right? Because to me, that shouldn't tie into it. To me, white power should be, man, I want my tribe and my people to do well. Why would you not want that? Why would that ever be a bad thing? It's the way that it seems like you have to destroy and put down another race or people in order for yours to thrive. I don't know if that's the way humanity has made us, but it just seems like that's always the case, right? When in reality, like you said, if we really kind of work together, especially in this melting pot of America, oh man, we can make a lot of beautiful things happen
But
just
but this
because
is
of
this
all
the
the
thing though.
different.
This is my thing though, right? If you look at a lot of racism is based on disinformation. It's based on ignorance,
Or stereotypes.
right? Think about what I just said. A lot of racism is based on disinformation, stereotypes.
Yeah, it's just based on ignorance, but they rely on people to be ignorant because it's really just
As
based on ignorance.
This is my thing. I'm gonna bring it back to my original question. As a business owner, would you allow somebody to come into your place of business and post a flyer? You as a black man, would you allow a white man who don't like black people to come into your place of business and post lies about black people, saying that he posts something, uh, make whatever stereotype.
I'm
All black
I'm
people are gonna
gonna
rob you.
I'm gonna interject here real quick and be like, David, you know exactly what I'm about to get to is when Jesse's
Right.
saying you wouldn't have that post up, right? So you can actually report that post. So there are
Right.
ways to report disinformation. So as David or even as myself, if I seen that information and I knew for a fact that it was wrong, I have reported those posts as scammers, as disinformation, as intimidating others, or like pretending to be somebody that
But
they're not.
how are you going to tell some 13-year-old, 14-year-old kid, how are they going to know if
That's
it's
why I'm saying
bullshit or not?
us as adults should also be making sure, especially if there are children,
Well, who's
that
doing
they
that?
know the difference.
Who's doing that?
The parents.
Who's doing that? Who's doing that when most people have to work 40 to 60 hours a week just to pay their bills? Who's doing that? Our kids are getting raised in school by other kids because they outnumber the teachers. How many to one? So they're not being supervised. It's kids raising kids, and it's been like that for generations.
Points out before social media even existed, this is how the
Look at
structure's
you.
been.
She's such a nerd.
No, but I
But am I
do agree
wrong?
with it though. No, I do agree with you completely. And I'll say social media has
Us
exacerbated
as
it.
adults,
And
as parents, have made sure to
But look,
curb that
but
content
this is
as
the
well.
thing.
If
Kids
you
were
aren't,
raising kids.
you know,
Kids were raising kids in school before social media existed. You're absolutely right. Right?
okay, listen,
But
listen, hold on.
now,
How about
but
this?
now
Listen,
it's kids
let,
on social media raising kids.
but listen, let me go back to this, like Jennifer said about just the parents and how easy it was to raise your kids, especially just say when I was younger. That I guess today's parents, and I'm not judging them, but I mean it seems to be a little, it's different. In my case, you'd have, well, no social media, but content would change on the TV at a certain time, right? At 9 o'clock time, just a later time, a little more risque, and nothing to compare to the way it was, the way it is now. But you understand what I'm saying. And
yeah.
all my parents had to do was say, and now it's time for bed. Just
Well,
that
and that's
simple.
the other thing is, David, how many teens, I know for a fact because I'm a parent of a teen, that will, that even when the parent says no social media, they will go and create fake accounts just to be able to talk with their friends. So
That's
they're sneaking behind their parents' backs.
all y'all doing is
So,
making my point. Why is this disinformation, these lies, this propaganda, all this bullshit allowed to be there
but the whole
when we
point is
cannot regulate it?
what we're saying is we can regulate it, and it's not that it's being allowed. People just have to report the content. That's what we were trying to say.
Kids, once
I don't think
again, don't know
I don't
what
think
it's
the
taking them.
government, I don't think the government wants to regulate it. I don't think Zuckerberg wants to regulate it. I don't think any of the powers that be wants to regulate any of these lies. They want it all to come out
Well,
exactly the way it is.
let me put it this way. I know for a fact that when it comes to cyber laws, because I've actually done a little bit of research on this, there are no laws that exist that hold platforms, social media platforms, accountable for the content that's posted on them. So if you post
There you
hate
go.
speech or you post disinformation, they personally cannot be held liable per the laws of the federal government or even state
There
government
you go.
because they are just a tool. They cannot
Yep.
control how people use their tool.
Wait a
You
minute.
see where I'm
Yep.
going?
if if
Yes.
somebody if somebody posted in their place of business some racial slur, anti-Semitic slur, or something like that, is it or is it not legal?
But no, because I
Okay,
will tell you,
but no,
because
no, no, no.
there are contents on social media that will flag your content and take it down. Am I wrong, David? Do they not have
Yes, and
moderators?
But
yes,
will
and
you be held accountable if you
this is
allow
when
it
you're
to stay up there?
listen. This is where you're differentiating. Well, this is where your analogy kind of falls
It
apart a little
doesn't
bit.
fit. It don't
No,
fit.
no, no. Let me explain it to you. This is where it would make more sense. Like, say, in my fitness business, if I was wearing outfits with swastikas on it, right? But
Yeah.
you're talking about me having a fitness business and what I allow somebody to post on my door or put up on my window. That's two different things because my tool and my business is fitness. Now, it's different if all of a sudden I decide to say, hey, let's all wear whiteface in my business. Now I done did something that kind of changes my business, which is my tool. Social media is just a tool, like Jennifer keeps telling you, right?
But no.
You act like the social media is putting that crazy stuff up there. It's people,
It's just people.
right?
Okay. So
Right,
if you allow your customers that come to your place of business as a fitness trainer and
right.
post their beliefs, right? Say if you got a board up there
But that's the thing.
allowing people to post their
There
beliefs.
are laws for physical businesses and
Why
there's
why would I
laws
even
for
do that? Why would
online.
I even do that? What do you mean post their beliefs? What on what?
So
On
you've never
what?
been to a place where people have walls where you can sign the wall, you can tag the wall, put whatever you want.
Or you could put your business card on a bulletin board, the
Oh
core
So if I
yes,
go
values.
on there
yes,
and I
yes.
post and I put up there something racial or something anti-Semitic or
On a
something that is
community board.
blatantly lies, if
Right,
that place of business leaves it up there, they are liable.
Yeah, but there's laws for that. That's what we're saying. There's not laws for
That's
online
right,
my point.
companies.
Why isn't there?
right.
Why aren't
Because
they
they
held accountable
don't
for their
because
policing?
they
People
don't want to
have.
regulate it.
Well, that's not true. People have pushed for more because of the cyberbullying, because of the suicide. People have been pushing. There's entire groups of people out there trying to push for better social safety protocols. You know what I'm saying? Better security for people using online, better protocols put in place for teenagers to safeguard them from all these things. You know what I mean? There are entire advocacies that are pushing for this, but change doesn't happen unless it happens at the government level, right? So here's the problem. Why doesn't the government care about this? Why is only the
Mm,
people care about this and not the government? And why are we asking for these things and you're not providing these resources when you're supposed to be there to provide the things that the people are asking for? This is
right.
what society is begging for, and that's not even a
But
blip on your conscience.
this brings me.
And not only the government, and you have to wonder why, and that's why I said Zuckerberg in particular. Why don't you care about that? Why don't you care about the facts and the truth? Right?
Well,
Why
I
does
feel like
that
they
matter so
do
little to
because
you?
remember, David, they have the moderators who do go around and take down content that's flagged and they do review content that's flagged.
But
There isn't,
remember,
but
but Trump cut all that out
yeah.
because remember when he kept going on there and lying and saying whatever he wanted to, they couldn't keep flagging him because eventually you pretty much got to let people say whatever they feel like.
Well,
That's where we'll pause for today. Thank you for being part of this space, for listening, reflecting, and holding these conversations with us. If something stayed with you or stirred something new, we'd love to hear it. Your voice matters here. If there's a story you think we should tell or a question we should sit with, reach out. This is a shared journey, one conversation at a time.